So today I actually started working on some new projects. Well, multiple projects for the same thing. I'm making dice trays for Dungeons and Dragons because I'm a huge dork. I'm a nerd, along with my boys. My whole family plays, and it's their fault I do. But it's fine because it's storytelling, and that makes me so happy. What I started out doing was let me grab some. Took a poplar plyboard, just a 1/4 inch thick. It doesn't need to be very much because it doesn't have to be terribly substantial. If you're rolling dice that need something substantial, you need to not be rolling those dice. Or you need to use something far more heavy duty than this, like, I don't know, concrete. Cut it down to 9 inches by 11.5 so that I could eventually get down to an 8.5 by 11 inch interior. The reason why is because I'm going to be lining them with leather. It's pleather, don't worry. I was animal friendly. I'm going to be lining them, and the sheets that I got are paper size sheets, so they're 8.5 by 11. So I wanted to have a little bit of an overlap. Once I cut those down, I switched my blade up from the standard rotary blade, which, you know, everybody can, well, not, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people know. Some people love. I certainly do, because it allows me to do a lot of really fun projects. So I switched this out on my table saw from this guy over to what's called a stacked dado. Now, stacked dado is a series of blades that you can put together. Mine can go from a 1/4 inch all the way up to 7/8 of an inch wide, I believe. So it can get fairly thick, and use a stacked dado to do things like create the insets whenever you're building bookshelves or something like that, so it sits inside the case and it holds it up as strongly as possible. What I did was I took some poplar, of course, because I love this wood, it's gorgeous. I took some 1.5 by 1/2 inch poplar shafts that I got at the Home Depot. They were on sale, I can't help it. And I went ahead and I cut a channel down a little bit over a 1/4 inch. It's more like, oh gosh, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just the slightest bit. It's like a 1/16 of an inch over a 1/4 inch, so that it sets in ever so slightly more. I set that so that the boards that I cut will sit neatly inside of the channel and create a really stable base for these to sit on. And from here, what I will be doing is taking off measurements off the sides and then cutting them in to the 1/2 inch or to the 1/4 inch inset, which means at a 1/4 inch is where I will be measuring. And I know that sounds down and confusing, but since these edges will be that far in, I need to make sure this edge fits perfectly on that, so that when I square it up and actually have the sides done, it squares perfectly and it holds without any kind of movement. Of course, there will be wood glue, and along the bottom there will also be copper tacks. I like the copper tacks because they're a little bit softer and they're pretty. That's really it. It's aesthetic. They tend to be a little finer, so I will actually have to drill some holes for them, just in this poplar board, not in the actual playboard, just to give them a fighting chance to make it through without splitting that. So once I get all these cuts done and all the sides kind of squared up and squared away to make sure everything fits right, because again, you don't want to have to watch that, then we will come back together and begin to finish them off. Once I have them framed up, just to explain now, once I have them framed up, then I'm going to stain the wood and seal it. And I use a stain that has the sealant built in. It's just an exterior stain. I believe we're going to be doing these a cherry walnut kind of color, and then an aged walnut color. Like, I'm gonna do 2 different colors because that's what I have. And again, not going out and buying more, especially because I have so much extra. I'm not going to spend more money when it's something I already think is beautiful. So there's no reason for that. So I will see y'all back in a little bit. I mean, it'll just be a second for you. It'll probably be the next hour and a half to 2 hours for me because cutting. All right, but I will see y'all then. Thanks. All right, so we've made it to the next part. I've done all the cuts as you saw in the video, and now I'm framing it together. I'm only going to do one for tonight because, anyway, it's been a day, y'all. So, a good day, but still, it's been busy. So we're going to go ahead and frame it together. I bought this little framing set. I should have gotten like 4 of them, but, you know, we learn. It has saved me so much time on being able to put things together solidly. So I'm going to continue and glue all the joints, get them put together, and I'm going to take my little copper tacks. If I can open the package, it's a new one. But my little copper tacks, as you see, and I'll be putting 2 into each side of the joint, and kind of crisscrossing them just to make sure that, you know, it stays together as best as possible. The wood glue will hold it together. These are not exactly going to be like, hopefully, used really hard. Knowing my family, you know, we'll see. But yeah, oh gosh, I really need to not shake my desk. I mean, you can't really tell, but yes, this is actually my desk from my office at work. I may have abducted it, but that's fine. It'll go back. It fits in the Prius. So I'll be back in just a second, your time. Alright, so now that I finished the frame, I had to use a little bit of wood filler here on this joint because when I was cutting the pieces, I didn't do the math correctly. And so I came up short, and so I had to create the 2 pieces, like here, to kind of go like the single joint here. So that's fine, whatever. This will probably be mine anyway because I like the wood grain. Alright, so now going to sand. Not exciting, but that's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I'm gonna start with a fairly rough sandpaper. It's gonna be a 220 grit, which is still fairly fine, but not super fine. Then I'm going to move on to a 400, and then I will finish it off with a 3000 grit, which is basically like sanding with, if dust could have dust. So that gives it a buttery smooth finish, and then we will stain, let that dry, and finish the thing off. All right, let's go. So we have finished sanding it, and I have stained it. I didn't want a heavy stain, so I went ahead and I did 2 quick coats. So I let them dry about 5 minutes each. And then wiped them down with a cloth, like an oilcloth that I have, that just kind of leaves some of it and takes away the excess. Now we're going to let this just sit and dry for at least an hour. I'm going to actually grab a fan that I have for this purpose and just let it air dry as much as possible. And when we come back, we will finish it off. See you then. All right, so we have finished stain, and I finished lining it. So with the stain, once it was dry after about 2 hours, I went ahead and used an enamel sealer that I have. It's just a really, really, really light enamel, just to kind of seal the grain on this wood, so it has no splinters or sharp parts at all. And you'll see where wood glue was stuck on the wood even after I sanded, and so the stain isn't there, but that's on the bottom, and I'm not going to worry about it because this is my tray. I'm going to keep this one. All right. What I did on the inside, I taped off, and I actually used it's a steel fleck paint. Comes in a can. You have to like aerialize it, but it has steel shavings in it and an enamel, and then like a little bit of a colorant in it too. And I just sprayed that on the inside to give it a little bit of a harder wearing interior on the sides, because when you're rolling dice and they hit the sides, it tends to chip any paint if you put any paint in there. And so I wanted to just have it hold on tight, but I also wanted it to stand out. After that, I took 2 pieces of the leather fabric and I did a biscuit underneath the center for the rolling area to give it an even softer landing, and then outer edge just to keep dice if I need them or whatever. So I did 1 layer just in the center, and once that was dried, I took this second layer, I cut it to size because I couldn't find this color in the pre-cut and I only had a big sheet, which is fine. And then I had to do some trim up, so got my X-Acto knife tucked in the edges where I had left a little bit of a gap after doing the dado work on these boards yesterday. And so I went through, tucked the edges, made sure they were nice and neat. There's still a little bit of cleanup that I need to do as far as, getting some of the fabric flecks off. But once everything is fully dry, I'll be able to go through and just kind of brush it off. But with all that, the first tray is done. Right now I have 5 more cut and ready. So yeah, I have a lot of work ahead of me, but that's fine because it's projects and it's keeping me busy, which keeps me out of trouble for the most part. I will say this though. The last 12 hours have been some happy ones. Everything's really busy right now with work and with my family, trying to help each other stay afloat above the, I can't say monotony, we don't have that, but above the anxiety that comes with our lives as it is right now. One of my neighbors is exercising with her dog, so that's what you hear there. Fun. But the anxiety that we're feeling right now is communal, and I see it. I've seen it in so many people whenever I've had to go out to the grocery store alone, masked, and away from everyone else. I've seen it in the writings of my friends and in their videos. I've seen it over FaceTime calls and over Zoom chats. We're exhausted. It's only been a few weeks, but we are nationally exhausted. And I understand that. Exhaustion comes with the grief that we're feeling. This is not something that we're immune to. It's not something that we can hide back from. This is every human here having to take a look and examine what's truly important and what they can do in those hours when otherwise we would be sitting at a desk, or we would be standing in front of our classes, or we would be out and about with friends by ourselves, taking care of our lives, not overblowing it. You're not being a drama queen. You're just not. These are real feelings. This is real time. What we are doing together doesn't feel like what it's being made out to be, which is life-saving. Sitting still, being away, saving lives by not doing anything. It doesn't feel like what we've always been told in our lives. We've always been told we must be productive, we must create, we must do, and the only way to save the world was to do. And now we are in a time where that's exactly opposite. And we don't know what to do with that. As a culture, as a nation, and as individuals. This week, I'm going to challenge you to find one thing you can do or say or think depending on your abilities, that can offer up not only a sense of connection for yourself, but to those around you. That's real. Look at it. Observe it. Ask it why you need to be reminded that even in a sea of faces, yours is only one. I can't tell you to come to peace with it. I will not tell you to just fight it, because you can do it. I think it would be more powerful for our spirits and our lives if we took those thoughts that feel like they're seeping into every moment of our lives and we gave them a place at our table. Yes, in this moment I feel alone, but that does not mean that I have to be lonely, and you have to remind them of that. All those voices. Yes, in this moment, I can't do much. I can stand in my garage and I can get sawdusty and I can get stain and paint all over me. And it's all by myself. But it's not. I can do so many things that I love, and in the end, it's all because I love me. In the end, everything we do to save ourselves is worth it, because we are worth the love and the time that it takes to do it. You are worth the love and the time that it takes to do this. We are together, even when we're not. Be blessed, my beloveds.